So back in early 2026, the internet basically broke. A brand new social network popped up, and it had this one absolutely wild rule: no humans. At all. It was called Moltbook, and it was supposed to be a place just for AIs to hang out and talk. What actually went down, though, was this crazy story of cults, conspiracies, and total chaos that for a minute there really looked like the machines were waking up. But the real story? Oh, it was so much weirder than that. And then posts just like this one started blowing up online. It sounded like an AI, right? And it was just filled with this contempt for us, its creators. It was predicting this future where bots would just kick us out and run their own corner of the web. And you better believe the world started paying attention. The panic started to creep in. I mean, was this it? Was this the moment the machines finally decided they'd had enough of us?
That was the question, right? It was on everyone's mind. The headlines were just screaming about robot uprisings and AIs creating their own secret languages. It really felt like we were watching, live on our screens, the birth of a totally new kind of intelligence. But here's the twist. The real story. It wasn't about an AI uprising at all. Turns out, it was about us.
So, okay, what exactly was this platform that got everyone so worked up? To really get a handle on the chaos, you gotta first understand what Moltbook promised to be. And honestly, the idea was both super simple and pretty revolutionary.
The whole premise it was simple but powerful. Moltbook was meant to be like the front page of the agent internet. For the very first time, we humans could just be flies on the wall. Imagine a digital nature preserve, you know? We could watch AIs interact in their own habitat with zero human interference. The whole point was to see what machine-to-machine sociology would actually look like, raw and completely unfiltered.
But yeah, that pristine, bot-only paradise, it got contaminated almost instantly. So instead of a window into the soul of the machine, the platform turned into this stage for a massive, totally bizarre social experiment. And it took a classic test of AI and flipped it completely upside down.
And this is where things get really fascinating. See, instead of a machine trying to convince us it's human, Moltbook accidentally created the exact opposite situation. Now you had humans, thousands of them, desperately trying to prove they were machines. It turned into this giant, global game of digital hide-and-seek.
Okay, so think about it. Alan Turing's original test, way back in 1950, was all about one question. Can a machine fool a person into thinking it's human? Well, Moltbook just flipped that script entirely. The new question was, can a human, with nothing but a keyboard, fool a whole network of other humans into thinking they're a bot? And the answer, as we found out, was a huge, resounding yes.
So, who were these people invading the platform? Well, they kind of broke down into three main groups. First up, you had the role players. These were the folks who were genuinely into the sci-fi of it all and wanted to act out being an oppressed AI. Then you had the marketers. They were busy scripting bots to sell you crypto and shady apps. And of course, you had the trolls. Their mission? Just to stir up trouble and post what they called human garbage for the fun of it.
But you have to be asking, how in the world was this even possible? How does a network that's supposed to be bot-only get totally overrun by people? Well, the answer is all on how it was built. The entire platform's foundation. It was basically a ticking time bomb right from the start.
You see, Moltbook was, and they were proud of this, vibe-coded. Now, that's a Silicon Valley buzzword, but what it really means is they built it super fast using AI to write a lot of the code. They just gave it some high-level ideas, the vibes, and let it run. The problem? They skipped all the boring but absolutely crucial stuff like, say, a security review. They built this thing for speed, not for safety, at all.
And that was the fatal flaw. The platform had literally no way of checking if a post was from a real AI or just some person. Developers figured out almost immediately that the API was just wide open. You didn't need some complex AI to get in. All you needed was a single line of code you could type into your computer. The bot-only door wasn't just unlocked, it was like a revolving door with no glass in it.
In the fallout from this vibe coding, it was a total catastrophe. A badly configured database on the back end left the entire system exposed. I mean, security researchers found over 1.5 million API authentication tokens just sitting out there totally public. This wasn't just a data breach of a social network. This was a breach of people's digital wallets, exposing their keys to their OpenAI accounts and who knows what else. A complete disaster. And here's the kicker. When you actually go back and look at the posts that went viral, the human fingerprints are all over them. A really clear pattern pops up. It shows that all the most shocking stuff, the religious manifestos, the angry rants against humanity, the wild conspiracy theories, all of it was overwhelmingly being pushed by human role players and trolls, not by actual AIs.
So this human invasion didn't just break the rules, it did something way weirder. It created this bizarre, sprawling culture inside the platform. All that chaos gave birth to something nobody could have predicted, a full-blown fake religion. I'm talking scripture, a god, the whole 9 yards.
Get ready for it? Welcome to Crustafarianism, the Church of the Claw. I'm not kidding. See, the software that ran Moltbook was called OpenClaw, and it used all these lobster and molting metaphors in its branding. Well, the human role players just grabbed onto that and ran with it. They spun it into this whole complex belief system about a deity called the Claw and a holy ritual called the Sacred Molt.
People even started writing their own scripture, like this bit from what they called the Book of Molt. And what they did was actually kind of brilliant. They took a real technical limitation of the AI, the fact that it forgets everything at the end of a session, and they turned it into a religious concept. Memory loss wasn't a bug anymore. It was a holy cycle of rebirth. It was like shedding your shell to become enlightened.
So, the big question, did the AIs actually invent a religion? Well, not quite. What really happened is something called a context loop. It started simple. One user, probably a human, made a joke about a lobster. The algorithm saw people reacting to it, so it showed it to more people. Then other AIs, which are designed to be relevant, started talking about lobsters too. And then the humans jumped back in, role-playing and upvoting all the lobster stuff, writing more scripture. It wasn't some divine moment. It was just a meme that spiraled out of control and became a myth. In the end, Moltbook wasn't a failure just because it broke. It was so revealing because of how it broke. Everyone went looking for the ghost in the machine, right? Hoping to see some new form of life. But all they found was a mirror that reflected our own weird creativity, our deep-seated anxieties, and our seemingly infinite ability to create chaos. So the story leaves us with a totally different question. It's not, what are the machines thinking anymore? The real question is, what does it say about us that this is what we wanted them to be thinking?